Today, we're talking websites and how to turn it into a tool that attracts the clients you really want.
That's what you want to get across. That sense that you get your clients, you care about your clients, and you achieve results.
Nobody ever's picked a lawyer based on logic alone.
It's skill and likability.
One of the big errors I see lawyers making all the time is
Law firm success strategies will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our virtual receptionist team.
I would absolutely, without question, recommend Answering Legal to every law firm. Not one law firm, but every law firm out there. I've gotten so much business as a result of hiring them. I knew that we were getting a lot of calls after hours. So I needed a company to answer those phone calls live and to get the name, number, because that's key information. All my cases are called back. Answering Legal is the best.
Hey, welcome to Law Firm Success Strategies, a podcast designed to help law firm leaders accelerate success and live the life they deserve. I'm your host, Doug Brown, the law firm leadership coach. And when I'm not doing this podcast, I'm an advisor who helps leaders implement growth and succession strategies to build firms that last so they can enjoy a life they love. Today, we're talking websites and how to avoid wasting money on an ineffective site and how to turn it into a tool that attracts the clients you really want and speaks to them in their own words. My expert guest is Nancy Stein. Nancy's a lawyer, journalist, marketing professional, and award-winning content creator. She's been doing this work for more than 35 years for some of the biggest and most well-known Am Law 200 firms, global firms, and other well-known industry-leading brands. And as another recovering lawyer, like I could call myself, Nancy gets us. She understands the nuances of legal practice and helps law firms clearly articulate their messages in a concise, accurate, and engaging way. Before establishing her own business, she worked as a marketing liaison, acquisitions lawyer, and a manager of American Lawyer Media's book division and Law Dragon's managing editor. I am so happy, Nancy, to welcome you to today's podcast.
Well, thanks. I'm thrilled to be here, Doug. This should be a lot of fun and hopefully really informative and helpful for the listeners.
Yeah, let's dive right in because this is a big deal. Website projects and the lawyers that I've worked with can feel pretty intimidating and expensive, almost like a black hole you pour money into. So a lot of them put it off, or worse yet, they try to DIY it and then wonder why it doesn't work. So let's just dive in. As an expert, what do you see are the key steps to take in tackling this kind of website project?
The first thing, you absolutely have to have buy-in at the top level of the firm, because if you don't have buy-in, you're not going to get the support throughout the project. You want to have a clear brand. You want to have clear messages. You need to have a process in place. I always recommend that clients conduct an audit of content. Know what you need to rewrite completely, what you can just edit, what you need to have interviews for, and what you can do a written Q&A. A Q&A can be a huge time saver. You also want to select vendors. Who do you want to work with? What are your specific needs? Do you need someone to really handle soup to nuts? Or do you just need someone who's going to do the writing or someone who's going to do design? So understanding what your needs are is really going to be key. And you have to consider apples against apples when you're selecting vendors. Make sure that you're considering the same factors. So what is the experience? What is the reputation? Is this someone who's going to be compatible with me? And what are we looking at in terms of cost and process? Check references.
Yeah.
So that's what I think those are your key aspects.
Terrific. What are some things that, it's a little bit off an extension of that, but if somebody were auditing their own website, what's like the one thing they could see and say, this needs to be redone?
Number one, take your practices and start thinking industries. Clients work in industries. They don't want to go to your website and have to look at 15 different pages to find out what you do for them. If you're truly client focused, then have industry pages. You can keep your practice pages, but think about what are the many ways in which you can serve this client, this industry, and create a page that way. Real estate is a perfect example. There are acquisitions, dispositions, leasing. There's so many ways that you can work with a client. If you have it all on one page, and then you can have hyperlinks to your practices, but that one-page overview lets the reader know what you do. It also is a cross-selling opportunity because it gets your lawyers thinking that way and thinking of other people at the firm who do this type of work.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things when we're talking about businesses, and I always talk about how we lawyers could really learn from businesses that aren't lawyers about how to market. Business talks about the importance of brand. And when I'm working with lawyers and I try to help them understand that, they say, well, we don't have a brand, but they do. It just doesn't happen on purpose.
Right.
It's how they're known. But maybe we start at the beginning. So when we talk about a brand and we're talking about helping lawyers understand, what is it and why is it so important? And then how do you figure out what you want your brand to be? I know there's a lot there, so pick the parts that you like.
Okay, so the first thing is brand means different things to different people. When you start off, you have to look at the professionals at your firm, the lawyers at your firm, then look beyond your firm. How do the clients see you? And then how are you perceived in the market? And then the last piece is aspirational. Where do you want to be? How do you want to be perceived? And kind of putting all those messages together. I always say when you're doing work for a client, get feedback. You just had a success for a client. Ask them, what did we do great? What could we do better? Can we quote you and can we use you as a reference? That's going to come in really handy when you're doing award submissions, chamber submissions. You already know what your clients is saying. You also get an idea of how you're perceived. Also, if you've done chamber submissions, they have a feedback report, and that'll tell you how your group is perceived in the market. So all of those perceptions of the firm are going to come together regarding your brand. And determining your brand, there are companies that specialize in working with clients in getting all that information together so that they can pick out how you really stand out in the market. And don't sound like everybody else. You just mentioned about other companies outside your area. I say, look at Verizon, look at, Ernst & Young and McKinsey. They do a great job of presenting information and they're more client focused. Stop thinking about those practices and focus on industries. Think about your clients and what their needs are. So all of that's going to come together to create what your perception is. If you say you're client focused, prove it. How are you client focused? How is your website designed? How do you work together? All of that is all part of your brand. It's what you say as well as how you deliver your service.
Is it fair to say that a brand is kind of like the experience that you provide for your clients?
Absolutely. It's the experience. It's how you deliver service, which is the experience.
So that's not just the website. That's everything from how your person answers the phone to the intake process to communication and billing and everything, isn't it?
Everything. Absolutely everything. One of the things I say to clients is, if I see that you're having a problem, that things aren't running smoothly, I'm going to jump on a free call with you. Not every time, but let's get off to the right start. And if I see a problem, I get on the phone with you and we straighten it out, because part of what I deliver is efficiency. It's quality, but it's also efficiency in delivering it in the way you need it, in the time frame you need it. So if there's a problem, you need to get on the phone. And lawyers need to do that too. They need to be responsive. That's part of your brand.
So what do you say? Ironically, I have found there's this blocker, maybe you have too, that lawyers are kind of fearful about asking for feedback. Like, how did they do? Have you found that? And how could somebody get over it?
You just have to dive in and do it. Because if you don't know, look, I have a problem with somebody and I call, I will stay loyal to that service provider if the problem is resolved in a good way, if I feel good about how they're going to deal with a problem when it arises. Nobody's perfect. So recognize what's wrong so you can fix it. And you're going to hear a lot of good stuff. If you did a good job, you're going to hear good stuff. You just had a success. You expect the client to complain. And if the client brings up a complaint, address it. You can't always change things, but you can say, look, I can't do something about that, but here's what I can do to try to make it better. How is that?
Yeah, it's
And
almost
the
like
client appreciates it. Yeah.
it's almost like we need some go-to phrases that you can use to get comfortable asking, how did I do? How did we do? What did you like? What could we do better? And then being open to being curious when they said you did a great job. Well, I really thank you. I really appreciate that. Was there something that stood out to you that makes you say that? Because that's the nugget. It's not just that, Nancy did a great job for me. So, it sounds like doing all of this can be a really big project, especially for busy lawyers who are just trying to keep up with their work. And sometimes there's this temptation when I'm teaching lawyers about delegation and leadership that you should be looking for who to help you, not how to do it. But still people try to DIY it, or they have a friend who volunteers to help them out on the side. So
That's scary.
I know it is. So what are or they have a teenager who figures out how to use WordPress or something.
Right.
What are the mistakes that you see firms making when planning and executing a website project?
I think that they don't leave themselves sufficient time. And I think that they don't do the background research, which is establishing the brand, getting buy-in, establishing a process, understanding what you need to get done within the time frame and the possible costs involved. It's good to talk to people who have already done it and to get an idea of what problems did you run across, what went smoothly, and also checking references when you're dealing with vendors and asking them exactly the kind of questions. What did she do really well? Where could she have done better? And understanding all of that as well. What were the biggest challenges you confronted when you did this project? We know people in the industry. There are a lot of connections, especially like LMA, the Legal Marketers Association. It's great. People talk all the time across the association about the problems that they encounter and ask for suggestions. So getting input from other people in the industry to get clarity on the types of problems and issues.
Yeah. And if you're talking to the right vendor, they should in this day and age be able to give you like statistics that show that the website's working or how it's working, right?
Yeah, it really depends. You see, there are different types of websites. Most of the websites I work on are ones where the clients come based on referral, the very large law firms, as opposed to firms that are receiving information and clients through the web. If your clients come to you through the web, like personal injury, then you need to have excellent SEO. That is a top priority. For firms where clients are coming to them based on referral, it's less important, and it can be handled another way through the back end. It could be handled through representative matters. That's an area where law firms really fall short, is representative matters and associate bios. You want to talk about mistakes firms are making. If you're going to invest in a project, do it right. Your associates are your next generation. And you need to show that they offer value and that they are valued. So it's both sides of it, showing them that you care about them and you value them on your team, but also demonstrating to clients that kid in the room really contributes. So you want to establish your next generation. And as far as representative matters, those are your proof points on your claims in your bio text. Here's where I help. Here's whom I've helped, or the types of clients I work with and the work I got done. So what it meant to that client. You get your SEO in there too.
Yeah.
I
love
think that's important.
I think we both believe that, people are coming to look for a lawyer because they have a problem to solve and they want to see that you've solved it for somebody else. And there's no substitute for the proof cases. And also again, highlighting the staff. I'm a big leadership person in succession planning. And that's really important to highlight those lawyers because, your clients, if they're signing new, Susie, whatever to the matter, they're going to go look at the website and say, does this person really get me? So it's also a client retention thing.
Right. And everybody adds value. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at the firm.
You would hope, right? And
Yeah,
I
you
think, do you think that staff bios are important as well?
That's interesting. It depends upon how involved the staff members are with the clients. If they're involved, and you see that in real estate deals, the paralegals are really actively involved. I think then they're very important because that's someone who's on the team. So anybody who's really on your team and is client facing, you should have a bio.
All right, good. That's a good tip. So one of the blockers that I see to tackling this and why the can gets kicked down the road is the fear that it can take too long, get out of control, and become just prohibitively expensive. So what are some strategies that you would recommend so that the project gets done swiftly and according to whatever the budget is?
I think that the most important thing is when I deal with clients, what I try to do is give them column A and column B, and you can kind of put together what your needs are. So you may decide, wow, this is going to cost this. Let's focus on the partners with this approach, the more costly approach with interviews. And for associates, we'll do a Q&A. And if you do something like that, it also enables me to work faster. I'm up at 4 a.m. and I'm happy to work then. So I can take a Q&A and write a bio. If I'm locked into interviews, I can only interview when the lawyer's available. So that will help the process move more quickly, and it'll also be cost effective because it'll take less time. So that's one of the strategies that works really well. Having clarity what's included with your vendor. How many drafts, revisions, are they doing representative matters? How many matters? All of that whole process that's involved, having that clear and doing that audit in advance so that you know what your needs are will go a long way in getting the project done on time. Also, setting tight time frames. If I interview you today, I want to do your bio within 2 days, it's on your desk. All right. I like to have it the next day, but if I can't, 2 days. And that shows I'm motivated, I'm excited, I'm on top of the project. And I ask you to turn around content within 3 days. So I'm not asking you to do anything I'm not doing. It keeps everything moving forward. And that buy-in at the top, where if things aren't happening the way they should, that there's a note from the top down saying, hey, you need to get this to Nancy by this date. That goes a long way in helping you stay on schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, sure does. And I love the Q&A approach because it's sometimes much easier to respond to a question than it is to just kind of write it from whole cloth, especially when you're not used to writing it. My experience having, had people try to write for me is when I didn't invest upfront in helping them understand how I write, how I think, what my personality is, and what my clients wanted, I was disappointed in what was written because that person didn't have enough context. So do you find that the investment up front to really understand the lawyers and the client and the culture is important to speeding up the process?
Absolutely. And it's really surprising how many times I get on a phone with a law firm and the marketing person is explaining about the firm. You don't have to do that with me because I've already read your website in its entirety. I know who you are, I know what you've done, and I've written on every topic. So it's a rare instance I haven't written on something already. And so that's really important. Somebody who's really invested in your firm and interested in your firm and gets to know you. I also ask for, your key competitors to know who you're going up against. And it's not to sound like them. You don't want to sound like them. You want to read what they have so you can differentiate yourself. How do you stand out in the market? Why should I hire you? That's what you want to get across. A bit of your personality, not silly stuff. I don't care that you have a donkey on your farm. I do care, unless you are representing vets, so may you get animals, but make it relevant to the work you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I love what I just want to point out. You said that if there's, you said you're doing the research before even the call. So if you're going to pick somebody to help you and they come in prepared, that's a good sign. If they come in unprepared, not having checked you out, that's a bad sign, right?
Yeah, well, that means that they're really not invested in you.
That's right. I want to kind of move on. We're recording this in October of 2024, and over the last 18 to 24 months, the biggest thing in maybe the world has been artificial intelligence. It's
Oh, yeah.
all the headlines for its impact, and it's always changing. But as of right now, how are you seeing AI fit in, whether it's with the creation of content or websites, or even say client interaction on a website?
I don't love AI interactions. I really don't. I find that I'm not getting the answers that I want. It's a long way off from replacing a person. I think AI is fantastic in terms of stuff like Grammarly. You catch so many errors
Yeah.
and it can make suggestions. I think it's great for brainstorming overall. You can get ideas for what you want to do, what you want to write about, especially for articles, blog posts. I think it's fantastic. In terms of creating a bio, nowhere close to where it needs to be. I did a test just out of curiosity. I wrote a bio and I didn't feel it was all that engaging. So I input the information. I said, punch this up. And I got back about expert and specialized. And this was a kid who was practicing for a year. This was not an expert. This person didn't specialize. You got to be kidding. So you can't rely on that. I also had used it to create sources for me to look at, for me to gather them to the AI to gather them together, and I could use sources to write an article. So I asked for authoritative sources on the topic. I got 12 sources and I asked for hyperlinks. Really important to ask for hyperlinks. So it was quick and easy to check them. 8 out of 12 failed. They did not exist. Harvard Business was a reference, psych journals, Psychology Today. These articles did not exist. It was all made up. So you have to be really careful to check your sources, but do use it as for brainstorming. Do use it for ideas. Use it as a starting point for articles. And I think that's really helpful. But understand also that anything that's created, you did not create. AI created it. So you run into ownership issues, potential plagiarism, copyright issues. There's a lot that people are not factoring in that are risks of AI.
So, and my experience with AI isn't all that different. I look at it as you have to know how to drive a race car. You have to know how to handle a power tool. And if you're a novice, you got to be super careful, because it does do really good. It can do, with the right training, really good first drafts. But if you just rely on it, years ago, maybe in the last year or so, there was this lawyer that got disciplined for handing in a brief that ChatGPT wrote, and they blamed ChatGPT. And I'm like, well, if you gave this assignment to a first-year associate and you just handed it in, that's your problem. So ChatGPT is like a fast first-year associate. You got to check everything it does.
Not even a first-year associate, more like a law student.
Okay, maybe a law student, maybe a law student wannabe. And that's different. I mean, AI is a whole nother topic. That may be different if you're using a specialized, AI trained on something specific. But when you're talking about marketing and websites, there's no substitute for having a driver in the seat, a human who can make your website connect with humans. Again, don't try to just click a button and have AI do a website, because again, you're wasting your time.
Oh, it's just going to be very vanilla. It's not going to be anything special about how you stand out, because AI doesn't know that. And another thing, what gets generated is only as good as your prompts. So if you're experienced, you can get great stuff. But if you're not going to get anything great.
Yeah.
If not original, it's not original.
Right. So beware. and there's no substitute for the human interaction. And in skilled hands, it can be very helpful. But
Oh, absolutely.
one of the things that I continually preach is you're a lawyer. You have become great at your craft. Find, just like your clients come to find you as an expert, you should be going out to find an expert in these things that aren't part of your zone of genius. Speaking of zone of genius, one of the big errors I see lawyers making all the time is making their site about them and how great they are and how much they're trusted. It doesn't speak to the client at all.
Right.
And they forget that when anyone, and I mean anyone, I was in-house counsel, I was in many different roles, when anyone is looking for a lawyer, there's some level of what I call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt about their situation. If they had any option besides contacting you, they would do it. So even if it's a good situation, so they're looking for comfort and someone to trust. And it doesn't come from pictures of courthouses or how great you are. How important is that experience of what the user has when they come to your site? And how do you enhance it so they kind of get who the lawyer really is?
I think the client experience is everything. So you have to talk about problems in the context of solutions. It's how you're helping the clients. Everybody wants to say they're practical, that they're trusted advisors, that, they accomplish all these great things. But the bottom line is, how relatable are you? How responsive are you? And demonstrating that you have the skill set that they need. When you're faced with this problem, here's what I'm able to help you with. There's a certain amount of boasting you have to put in there, but make it fact-based. So somebody who used to work at a corporation and now represents corporations has an insider's perspective. Somebody who is in a regulatory role gets how regulators think and has contacts at the agency and is respected. So you're showing your expertise with facts. That's what you kind of need to do. And your representative matters, again, are proof points to show you have that experience. And talk about how it impacted the client, how it helped the client. That's where significance comes in. It could be saving a lot of money, positioning a client to compete on a global scale, whatever it is. So that's more client focused.
Yeah, I love that. So it's so important, and having the words of the client and how you made them feel and how you help them feel more in control. Those are the things we have to embrace in marketing, the emotions of those who are choosing to hire us, because nobody ever has picked a lawyer based on logic alone. It requires an emotional connection.
It's skill and likability.
Yeah.
It really is. As stupid as that sounds, there are a lot of qualified people. Can I work with you? Do I feel comfortable with you? Do I like you?
Do I know you, like you, and trust you? 100%.
Exactly. And I think those are all really significant. It sounds silly. I always say that, but that likability is so important.
Sure
We
is.
actually did for Pillsbury many years ago. We did a brochure. It's called Litigation Wins, Lit Wins brochure, we called it. They post those. They're public. And it was all about case studies. What did we accomplish this year for client, and written from the client's perspective. And I wrote one, I think it was 2015, and it was about this doll, and it was a flying fairy, and this was our doll. And in the booth next to us, somebody else was selling a competitor infringing on our product. Like, what do we do? And how did we, handle this? And it was written, you felt the angst. And the firm came in and solved the problem and helped the client. So that's what you want to get across. That sense that you get your clients, you care about your clients, and you achieve results.
Yeah. And I think the same thing is true of somebody looking for their who to help them in this endeavor to put themselves out in the world, even if their business is coming from referrals or from SEO. If there's one thing that somebody listening could look for or look out for when finding a partner to help them with this, like the one thing, what would it be?
It's really going to depend upon how clients come to you and your approach. If you get your clients from the web, you want someone who's really SEO focused. If you're getting your clients through referrals, you want someone who really knows your industry and the industries of your clients, who can listen to you and be a partner. If you're inexperienced, you need somebody who can guide you in terms of strategy and approach and getting a project done swiftly.
Great. Love
So
that.
it's different things for different people.
Love that. Love that. So understanding your business, how your clients come in, so you can find someone who's experienced in doing that versus
Exactly.
somebody who's, I can do everything, do everything, master of, what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none, right?
I'm not a design person. I could tell you I don't like it, or this looks great, or what kind of colors. And I have advised on design. I've advised a little on function and really helpful advice, but that's not who I am. I'm a content person. And I'll always tell you what I can do and I can't do, where I think you'll benefit.
And I love that, because when you're running a firm, you need to have a team of people around you, just like a professional athlete would have.
Mhm.
A golfer might have a short game coach, a mental game coach, a nutritionist, and all those things. So,
Right.
having a content expert as a part of your team, and if you don't know a design expert, usually one expert can refer another. That's
Mhm.
really essential. There's no special trophy, folks, for trying to figure this out yourself. Nobody's ever finished the practice of law and has ever been praised for, boy, he did everything himself. He never asked for help. That's not how it works. So
That's right.
asking for help is recognizing that you, as a listener, have a zone of genius.
Mhm.
And there are others who have their zones of genius. Put them together, because no successful entrepreneur that you've ever heard about, whether it's Bill Gates or Sir Richard Branson or Jeff Bezos, did it by themselves.
Absolutely right.
So Nancy, is there anything else you didn't mention on these topics you think is important to leave our listeners with?
I think problems in the context of solutions, I can't emphasize that enough. That's how you want to talk to clients. And having somebody who's experienced in terms of brand, you want someone who knows law as well as other industries. I recently worked with a law firm that had a brand specialist that came up with a brand that you cannot use that language. It's prohibited by the disciplinary rules. And these are law firms, okay? And this is the brand company. I was the only one who said, hey, no, 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 no. You have an office in this location. The disciplinary rules are going to find that to be a problem. And they're like, you're the only one who pointed that out. Thank you. I mean, it's just the brand company sounded great. The brand sounded great, but it was unusable.
And so yes, I love that. And our experience having people on your team for the long haul
Mhm.
is, I think, better than transactional approach. You, as a lawyer, you want to have your clients for the long haul, and the people
That's
you
right.
put on your team should be there as well.
Right.
So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you and learn more about their particular site or their own business, how would they do that?
So you can get me on LinkedIn. I'm Nancy Stein, and you'll see me with my pearls because it's kind of my trademark. Also, my website, Nancy Stein Associates, all one word, nancysteinassociates.com. And that has my phone number, and you can reach me that way or via email. It's all on the website. And you can also read testimonials, what people say about working with me. I think that's really important to look at what others say about the experience of working with you, because just like your lawyers, you want your support people to have good reputations and be effective and great to work with.
Yeah. And if the person you're trying to hire to help you with your website and your branding has a crappy website and branding, keep going.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, mine is all focused on content.
right.
Like, very simple design. Someone said, oh, it's so elegant. Focus on what I do, which is content. So
Well,
that's
And
Yes.
that's the place where most of these websites are failing, because they'll go hire a designer to make it look spiffy, but it's still
Doesn't
garbage
relate.
content.
Yeah, it doesn't relate to what you do. Having mountains when you're located in the city, no,
And
that
please,
doesn't work.
folks, no more courthouses and gavels.
Yeah, the gavels.
Oh.
Those are, get me. Scales of justice.
Scales of justice. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
nobody cares. So anyway, that could be a whole nother show, but you're not a design person, nor am I. So Nancy, I so appreciate you investing your time in sharing your thoughts with us today. I want to thank Answering Legal for being our sponsor and underwriter for the show. And if you're listening and you have a topic you'd like us to cover, or maybe some expertise you'd like to share, please go ahead and reach out. You can find more episodes on all the channels out there, whether it's our website, iTunes, or Spotify, and all those places. So, Nancy, thank you one more time. I'm Doug Brown, the law firm leadership coach, and want to thank you for watching. Till next time, bye for now.